Alright, everybody, I'm back and I'm here continuing where I left off about character creations for D&D 3.5 4.0. Alright, so here's where I'm going to go over today. Notice in the top left corner there is the stat boxes: strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. Now, what I had said in the last video is I will be going over the stats, and I will also go over the skills separately. And another thing, probably, chop that up into about 2 or 3 because there are a lot of skills. And then once you have all that, you should be able to, get all your character creation done, and then you can start enjoying the game. Now, remember, I will be trying to, explain it as it is in regular D&D, because remember, we do some house rules, but for the most part, with the stats, it's all the same. I do want to clarify one thing from my previous video about how to create your stats, and from what was said before is that, what we do is we roll 4, take the highest, roll 3, take the highest, roll 2, take the highest. That is almost how it is done normally, but how it is normally is you just roll 4 and take the 3 highest, and that is your stat. The reason why we do it the way I explained it there is because we typically run higher end where, it is, harder content to deal with. So that's why we do it. Basically, like for us, a normal level 1 would be the equivalent of like level 4 for others. So that's why we do that. Now, that aside, let's get into this. Alright. Now, the first one that we're going to describe is strength. Now, strength is, kind of straightforward and whatnot. How it works is, it's how strong you are, your muscles and your physical powers. All right. It is, a very, these are going to be classes from the PHB, so it's not going to be all the classes that are out there, but, just to simplify it, it is a very important stat for fighters, barbarians, paladins, rangers, and monks, because they're all, for the most part, melee-oriented combatants. Now, and why the reason for that is because strength not only increases your chance to hit because you add your strength to your base attack bonus, which is basically your enhancements to hit when you roll. It also increases the damage from melee attacks, such as swinging a sword, hammer, axe, the like. Also, it can also be used for the damage roll for a thrown weapon. Now, if I'm correct, there is a couple that are technically thrown, but I don't really think that you would use your strength. I'm pretty sure I'm wrong about that, so don't quote me. But all, if not most, thrown weapons will use your melee will use your strength for your attack and damage. Now, some of this I will be going over again later on when I start describing, how the battle system works. But when you're attacking, if you use a one-handed weapon, you just, for your damage, you just, do your strength normally. Now, if you're doing dual wielding, on the other hand, your main hand, which I'm going to say right hand because most of us are, is going to be getting the full, strength benefit. But with your offhand, they only receive half of the bonus. So let's say that you have a strength modifier of 2. So when you attack with your main hand and you deal damage, boom, 2 extra damage. But when you do it with your offhand, you only do 1 extra damage. So it's, not, for, beginning and late, it actually can make, quite the difference. But around middle, doesn't make too much of a difference because, the gap isn't wide enough where it's like 1 damage is, while 1 damage at the beginning is, oh my goodness. Now, on the other hand, or should I say, on the other 2 hands, if you're using a dual weapon or weapon that you have to wield 2-handed, like a great sword, warhammer, instead of doing 2, instead of doing 2, you're going to do 1.5 your strength. So if you have 2, 1 and half that, which half of that is 1, so that means you're going to add 1 on top of that 2. So now you're going to be doing 3 damage. So BAM! Alright. And also for if you're using a composite bow, I believe, which, those are like, if you go to like a hunting store or something like that, you see those bows with the contraptions on it, with the wheels and whatnot. Those are composite bows. Those, they take a lot of force to use. So I believe your strength also applies to the damage right there. Maybe attack rolls too. I am not 100% sure. We'll find out about that when we go over weaponry. Now, just a small couple of skills they use it for is climb, jumps, and swim. Because, those are very, you need strength to climb, strength to jump. And, swim isn't, a debate one. You could argue that, dexterity, your ability to wade through the water, or, strength to push the water away, that's up for debate. But for this purpose, it is swim is affected by strength. And also, you can use strength checks, which, let's say you wanted to do, break down a door, alright? You'll roll, the door has a certain toughness to it. You roll a d20 to see if your strength is high enough to bust it down. If you do, you break it down. If it's, let's say, it's 10 and you roll a 12, you bust the door down. But if it's 10 and you roll a 5, even when your strength modifier of 2 is 7, you just, kind of just ram the door in. It's like, ow. And, different races give you different, stat bonuses and whatnot. We ain't going over that today. But for the most part, that kind of, explains strength. Now, we're going to move straight on to dexterity because I'm going to try to make this as quick as I can. Short as I can, sorry. Alright. Dexterity is hand-eye coordination and, your ability to be mobile, maneuverable. So, your agility. So, if it's a good ability for, rogues, because, they like to, be quick on their feet, run around. It's also really good for those who do not wear a lot of armor, light or medium armor, especially towards light, medium, is kind of that little middle way, and also no armor. So like, rangers and barbarians, and if you remember back my previous video, wizards and sorcerers, since they cannot use armor, they'll get no bonuses. So dexterity is a good thing. It's just the way they can dodge attacks. Which, if remember, dexterity adds your AC. AC is how hard it is for you to hit. There you go. Now, what you use your dexterity modifier for is your ranged attack rolls. So, using bows, crossbows, throwing weapons, and other ranged ones like slingshots, stuff like that. Basically, any projectile-based weaponry, that's what you apply your dexterity to do for accuracy. And, yeah. But, like I said, it also affects your AC. So if you have a 2 modifier in your dexterity, and you have a base of 10 AC, you have 12. You now have 13 AC, which means in order for them to hit you, you have to hit at least a 13 or higher to hit. That's with all their stuff added in. And the other thing it is used for is reflex throws. So let's say you're facing against a wizard or a sorcerer and they cast fireball. You get a reflex save, and that reflex save allows you to, if you successfully do it, take half the damage of the fireball. If you fail it, then you get the full damage, which you do not want that. And just a couple of things off the top is for skills. Is balance, escape artist, hide, and move silently, because you want to be quick on your feet, light on your feet, all the other good jazz. There's more to it, but that's something that we'll get into later, because like I said, we'll do the whole stuff later with the skills. Now next one is Constitution. Now Constitution, on the other hand, is one that is universally needed by every class, because Constitution is how healthy you are, your stamina, basically your hit points, how much damage you can take. Now with your Constitution to your health, like I said in my previous video, you would roll your hit die and add your Constitution modifier. So generally speaking, if you have a couple of high stats, you want to have one of them in Constitution always, unless you just really are not expecting to get hit at all because you're off in the back doing whatever. Even then, I would still have a decent amount of Constitution. So you roll your hit die. Let's say Wizard D4, and you have a Constitution of 2. You roll the D4, it's a 2. You get a 2 from the Constitution. You now have 4 HP. That's crap HP, but that's what you get. That's typically why we do it. Is we take the max roll at level 1. Constitution is also used for Fortitude saves, which is for like resistance to poison and basically anything that would be detrimental to your health. So yeah, just think poisons, diseases, intoxication, from drinking too much, all the good jazz. Alright, that's what Fortitude is good for. Now it is also, if you are a wizard, or sorcerer, you really want to have this in there too, because if you're in the heat of battle, remember what I said about that concentration? You want Constitution for it, because that is the stat that goes into concentrations. This way you do not break it. Now here's a fun little tidbit with it. Alright, as you level up and get other items and whatnot, your stats can increase. Alright, what happens when your Constitution increases, if it's increased enough to get to a new, to enhance modifier, so from 2 to 3, and let's say you're at level 5 when this happened, you get 5 HP on the spot retroactively, because your Constitution is now higher. So if you had, let's say, 25 HP at the time, and you get an item that boosts your Constitution up enough to get one more, boom, you're now at 30. So Constitution is a very good one to have. Now the next one is Intelligence. Intelligence is, how smart you are, which is a very important thing for wizards, because it affects how many spells they can cast, and their strength and all that good jazz. Which also, Intelligence allows you to have know more languages at the start of the campaign. And like I said, wizards to know more spells, and it increases the number of skill points you get. This way, you can distribute those throughout all your class skills. Now, a couple of the skills is appraise, craft, decipher script. These are all things that you would need to be smart or knowledgeable about in order to do it. And yeah, that's I think that's pretty much about it. There is a whole table about oh, actually, one more thing. In order for this is also something that we kind of don't really. It's one of our house rule things, but how it actually is in order for the most part, in order for you to be casting a spell, you have to have an intelligence of 10 plus the spell level, which means it's not the modifier, it is the the actual score. So what you had rolled, that's what it's that's what you need in order for you to cast your spells. So if you have a intelligence score of 15, that means you can cast up to level 5 spells. While on the other hand, if you have an intelligence score of 11, you can only cast up to first level spells. So, you kind of want to have, intelligence if you're a spellcaster, because, yeah, you want to be able to cast higher level spells and more of them and make them stronger. So, that's, one of the house rule things we do is, once you gain access to those spells, the intelligence does not, affect, you being able to cast them. It's just, the strength of them. Otherwise, you basically wouldn't be able to cast, higher level stuff unless you rolled really good and put it into intelligence. So, yeah, that's just our thing. Now, wisdom, on the other hand, is your intuition, your perception, and your common sense. So, an example of, having good wisdom is, you're walking down the street in the middle of the night, and you walk past an alleyway, and you hear, someone calling, "Hey, you, come out here, come in here, I gotta talk to you." It's like, yeah, common sense would say, no, I'm going to go back the way I came, so that's why I don't have to deal with you. Alright? While on the other hand, someone who does not have, a good wisdom, but has high intelligence is an absent-minded professor. Right? He's just, he's teaching his class and whatnot, but, he's not really paying attention to what his students are doing. He's just talking about his lecture, right? He's not aware that, the person on the second row, third seat is, drawing pictures of him, punching the professor in the face, or the kid in the front desk is, sleeping. He's not paying attention to that, But anywho, that's just, kind of a little description type deal. Yeah, the wisdom is, a good thing for clerics and druids, as well as paladins and rangers, because, you just want to have a high sense of, what the hell is going on, right? The reason for these is because, with those, also for those classes, is because their stuff is, their spells that they get is based on the wisdom scores. And just like, with the whole, intelligence needed, in order to cast the spells, that's how it is for them, but the wisdom. So in order for you to cast a 5th level paladin spell, you need 10 plus spell levels on your score. Basically rinse and repeat, just put it onto wisdom. Now, wisdom is also used for will saves. So basically, mind altering abilities like, charm person, or not, a spell that will put you to sleep, not a poison that will put you to sleep, a spell to put you to sleep. Will saves will typically, be used against, magic stuff. Constitution or fortitude, my bad, will be used against poisons, and reflex will be used against projectiles. Not attack roll projectiles, but other things like traps and whatnot. Now, a couple of wisdom skills is listen, profession, sense motive, spot, and survival. I think that can be a little bit of self-explanatory. Like I was saying, being absent-minded. You ain't gonna be looking around. Saying, oh hey look, there's that bear trap right there. I ain't gonna notice that. Or these berries over here couldn't be edible because I'm actually looking around. If you have a bad one, you'd be like, where's food? Just yeah. Alright, and now the last one is charisma. Now charisma is charismatic people. If you've ever watched I'm gonna put a movie out there, Boondock Saints. Alright, at the end where Don Corleone, I'm pretty sure I just butchered it and got the wrong name, but basically the leader of the mafia guy, he's in court, he's got the jury, the judge, and one in and out of the palm of his hands because he's a very charismatic, likable, great personality type of guy for that situation. That's also one reason why he's the leader of a mafia, because having a great personality, bam, you can lead. Now, someone with bad charisma would be someone like me who, I don't know why people even associate with me, but, that's beside the point. I think it's good people like, the fact that I helped them out and not because of any of their means. Now, what classes are good for having high charisma will be paladins, sorcerers, and bards. And also clerics, since it also affects their ability to turn undead. Right? Alright. Now, what you would use your charisma score for is, attempt to influence others. So, basically, you're at a bar and, you see, a cute girl over there in the corner, but, just walk up to her, roll a charisma check, start trying to sweet talk her up. If it works, you got a date. If it doesn't work, you might get a drink thrown in your face or just told to, screw off. So, let's hope that, you don't get told to screw off. Now, the reason why, I already told you, it's because, for most of them, it is, to turn undead, rebuke, all that good jazz. For the unliving, like zombies, vampires, anything undead, reanimated corpses. And the reason why it's for sorcerers and bards to have it is because their spells are based on charisma. Rinse and repeat with the wisdom and intelligence. That's what it is for charisma for sorcerers and bards. Alright? No, I ain't gonna get into that again. I already said it twice. Now, the couple of skills that is needed for it is bluff, diplomacy, gather information, and handle animal. Alright? Reason for those is because, charismatic people, they can basically talk, they can have a silver tongue, talk the way out of anything. Adventures, Loki, he is a very charismatic person because he has a silver tongue. That is one way of using charisma. Alright? Another one is, based on their looks. To a lot of people, Loki, he's just an average looking guy, while you look over at Thor, his brother, and they think he's a very handsome man. It's like, I want to see what he's got underneath those clothes. Those are kind of different ways of doing charisma. Now, for the most part, that is it for the abilities. Now, it is good to note that, as you know, depending on your character's age, race, and whatnot, your ability scores can change from what your initial rolls are. I can't think of any of them off the top of my head, except for I think a dwarf. Uh, he, if you have if you're a dwarf, all right, then you have a higher what is it called? Fortitude. Yeah, you have a higher fortitude. All right. No. Well, I am right. You have a higher fortitude because you have a higher constitution. So, same thing. So if you have a if you have a 2 modifier in your constitution, and you say you're a dwarf, your score goes up by 2, which means your modifier goes up by 1. So now you have 3. But because dwarves are kind of like short, stubby creatures, they're not as well liked, so they have -2 to charisma. So they're not as likable. So without further ado, this has been Mr. Pink. Goodbye.